Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. So glad you could join us. I'm your host, Michael Vega. So much to discuss here with the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Unbelievable. What else do we need to talk about here? Jason Tatum, a star reborn, I think, with that epic Game 7 performance that knocked out the Philadelphia 76ers and invariably cost Doc Rivers his job, a guy that we all here in Boston appreciate and respect for the job he did with the Celtics in winning the championship in 2008. And, you know, unbelievable performance by Jason Tatum, by the Celtics overall, I think, in getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think there's a real clear path now for them, but you got to be wary of the Miami Heat. You know, Miami Heat are there for a reason, you know. And the guy that scared me the most of all the guys in the playoffs was Jimmy Butler, because that guy's a ball player, and you know,
averaging 31 points.
Absolutely, and of course, who better to talk about ball players but one himself, Mr. Al Pizzuti. Al, thanks for being here with us. What do you like or don't like about this matchup against the Miami Heat?
Butler. I think Butler can win. He did it 2 years ago, I think it was.
Well, he forced him to a Game 7, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a player, and the coach. The coach has been around for a long time, and he's always got Miami there. So, I mean, they're a well-coached team. They've got a player who plays well in very difficult situations.
Yeah.
Not like Harden, who didn't even play in the 7th.
You know, and it's funny, but the Heat have a player, I think, kind of like Harden in Kyle Lowry, in that he embellishes a lot, gets to the line, throws up some shots. You know, he's not the same offensive threat as Harden, but he's the same. He brings the same annoying factor to the team.
You notice one thing with the NBA, though. You cannot win with one star.
No.
The Celtics have Jason Tatum, but they also have Brown, if you want to say the two of them are the stars. They got the Heat have Butler, and they've got
Bam Adebayo.
Yeah. And then if you take a look at the Lakers got Anthony Davis, and they've got LeBron. And you take a look at Denver.
Denver has a lot.
I mean, they've got this kid Jokic, and then they also have Murray. Murray scored 31 points last night.
And not only that, they have a great supporting cast too. I mean,
but
you look at Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. on the Nuggets.
Right.
You know, with the Lakers, you got Rai Hachimura and this kid Austin Reeves, who knocked down a couple 3-pointers at the end of Game 1 that, you know, brought him within.
But if you have the two, you can't concentrate on one. You have to concentrate on both. And so that's complementary. And then the supporting cast, like the Celtics have. I mean, the Celtics, Brogdon, the other night in the first period was unstoppable.
6th man of the year, yeah.
And you know, he's a great player. And White can do a lot of things. He can shoot. And he's kind of like lost when everybody focuses on the other three, including Brogdon, and he's there.
Well, I like the way that, you know, he can get downhill with the basketball.
Yeah.
You know, he curls around the key top screens, and he's a threat to pull up for the three, or he can dribble, penetrate, and get to the rim.
And I think as I told you before the show started, I've kind of changed my opinion of Marcus.
Unbelievable, unbelievable people. I'm going to have to ask you for some ID Because
Well, I mean, let me say
what
this.
caused this paradigm shift?
Well,
Al?
I don't want Marcus Smart shooting the last shot, and I clearly don't want him shooting the last shot on a three.
Right.
I mean, even though the other night when
Well, I mean, he's shown that he can make them.
he can make them, I'm not saying
a little
he
bit
can't,
more time.
but
in
he's
that
not
game.
the guy that if I'm calling a timeout, it's either going to be
Oh yeah, you're not your first.
Tatum
He's
or
not the
Brown.
first option. That's right.
But he's all over the place. He's a hustler. In a lot of cases, he's a lot like what the Celtics have always had. Guys that will dive for balls.
He's like a Danny Ainge back in the 80s.
He's like Larry Bird in a lot of ways. When you look at Bird, I mean, Bird had a bad back, but he'd dive for balls. And so anyways, I think...
So Marcus Smart grew on you like a fungus, didn't he?
Well, I'm a type of person that if I don't like somebody and then they can show me why I have an opinion one way and change it, I'm okay with that. I mean, I think he's a better player than I thought he was. It's kind of like Duran on the Red Sox. I never thought this kid could hit. Now that I look at him,
bigger, stronger.
I was at the game last night. When I look at him, there's a couple of things that are impressive about him. One, he's bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah.
I saw him walk, and he was really ticked off on the umpire called him out on strikes.
Yeah, he struck out the first two times up.
The first two times up, but one of them he really thought was a ball.
Yeah.
And he dropped his hat and took his glove off. It took a long time to leave, but he walked back to the dugout, and he was walking by some of the other players. He's bigger than I thought he was, and he's fast. Not a great center fielder, but, he's better ball player than I thought he was. Yeah. So he's the Marcus Smart of the Red Sox.
I don't know. I don't know if I would elevate him to that exalted level just yet.
Well, wait a minute now. I don't want. I'm not exalting Marcus.
Come on now. I was on Marcus Smart before you were way ahead of. I love Marcus Smart because of what he brings: the intangibles, the leadership, the toughness. Yeah. He sets the tone defensively. He was the defensive player of the year a year ago, and for a good reason. And he's a guy that is an instigator too. Yeah. He gets into people. And I'll tell you what, it's contagious. And you saw that in that when Game 7, James Harden goes to the rim. He's got a heavy contest from Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown gets hit on the mug. All right, he's not wearing his mask. He gets hit. It draws blood. And in that moment, Al, I said to myself, "Oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. This is on like Donkey Kong." Celtics were behind. And then, of course, they got the foul, flagrant one, shoot the two, get the ball back. They score. They come back, turn them over. Jaylen Brown turns them over, right? They go in and they score. Now it's a tie ball game, and they're gone. They're off to the races. Yeah. And I saw Jaylen Brown with bloody nose and all diving for a loose ball numerous times. Numerous times he sold out. And I said, that is the impact of a Marcus Smart.
He's a tougher kid, though.
He's a way tough kid.
He's a tougher kid than I thought he was.
I look at that roster as it's comprised right now, and I kind of juxtaposed it with the teams in the West right now. And I said, okay, who's going to cover Tatum on the Lakers? Who's going to cover Brown? Who's going to cover Brogdon? Who's going to get out? What about Al Horford? What about Rob Williams? The Celtics can come at you in waves.
I know you put Horford in a different category. What Horford does is in spurts, he's excellent defensively.
Well,
in
no
spurts. In spurts, he's okay offensively. But he's old. And you gotta realize
the
that.
Minutes. This is true.
You definitely have to manage his minutes.
You gotta get him to the fourth quarter. In a tight game, which many of these games are, you've got to get him to the fourth quarter. That's the coach. And Missoula uses him very well. I think Missoula's finding himself now.
Well, he's using Williams. He didn't win the Philly series if he didn't use Williams in that sixth game.
Right.
I mean, Williams changed a lot of the mentality that he's an athlete.
Well, with a double big against that guy, Embiid. That was necessary.
I thought Embiid played a bad game on the seventh game because
I think he was fatigued a little bit.
He might have been fatigued, whatever it was.
And they were turning him over. They were forcing him off the spot.
He should be.
That was a function of Al Horford.
He should be penetrating.
And then you saw Al. Did you notice every time he touched the ball, Al was not alone in guarding him. Yeah. There were guys that would all of a sudden sag, and now they created a picket fence, around the perimeter or around the paint or the elbow, so that it forced Embiid to give up the ball.
But it's an interesting thing, though. I mean, Embiid was considered the MVP
No doubt.
of the year. But I'll tell you, this kid Nikola Jokic for Denver.
Well, he had been the MVP before Embiid got it.
Yeah, but when you watch what he did last night,
he's
41
unbelievable.
points. He had.
He has a handle of a point guard.
Well, he had 14. I think what was it? 14 assists, and he had 21 rebounds
And 34?
and 34
And that was a
points.
sixth triple-double of his playoff career.
One of them, toward the end, I think it was toward the end of either the half or the third period, he threw up. The guy was covering him, and it would have been a 5, not a 4 or a 3. And it went and swish.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
But
the
you know
kid's
what?
a
I think
player.
there was a little bit of a travel there. And Al, it's amazing to me how many steps these guys take.
Yeah, well.
When they gather the ball and they go up. I mean, it's league wide. It seems like if you get a travel call, it's analogous to like a UFO sighting or Sasquatch
Well,
sighting.
even I'll tell you,
it's
even
that rare.
charging. When you watch some of these guys, they're pushing their way in. They're leaning on the player, the offense, the defense.
How many
I don't
times
know.
did Embiid create or initiate contact?
No, he's a
Beast, man. He was
a
a beast. And I mean, even Marcus Smart got out on him and tried to post him up. Marcus Smart was like going, okay, big guy, I'm going to get on you.
Well,
I'm going to get on
you got to
now."
remember, it was only Horford that blocked one of his shots.
Well, no, Williams also got a piece of one.
Well, Williams will block anybody's shot, but I mean, other than you wouldn't
Horford
think
altered a
Horford
shot,
could get
got a
there,
piece of
but
it.
he's not as big as this kid.
and here's the thing,
7
Al.
feet.
The way they played defense in Game 7, the way they played defense in the fourth quarter of Game 6, to me, said, okay, they figured this thing out. Now they're rolling. They know how to play defense. They know that, you know what? As even Jason Tatum himself mentioned, the Sixers had him on the ropes in Game 6. They had him on the ropes.
Everybody's had the Celtics on the ropes. Here's the dish. Here's my problem with this. Miami could beat them. They
Yes,
could beat them.
no doubt.
Denver could beat them, and the Lakers could beat them. Why? You don't know who's going to show up for the Celtics all the time. So when you say things have changed, it always happens that it seems like it does, and then it reverts back. So,
But I'm saying the last 6 quarters of basketball have been superb.
no, I'd say the
Celtics.
last
6 quarters.
4. One that Jason Tatum did
I'll say
nothing in the first half.
Last 5.
Yeah, maybe 5,
Last
but I'll give you
5.
5, not 6, because he was miserable.
Well, the
he was
reason I
1
say
for
6 is
14.
because, the Celtics stayed in it
Yeah, well,
in that third quarter. They didn't allow the Sixers to run away with it.
well,
They
Tatum
kept them in it. And
Tatum
then,
took over in the fourth
and
quarter.
Al, I just knew Tatum was going to factor in the
I
fourth
didn't.
quarter of Game 6.
I
I
never-
did not lose faith in the kid because you know what? I never saw him drop his head.
No, well,
I
he never
saw
does.
him.
He's a cocky
I saw
guy.
him he was engaged. He said, okay, I'm not making shots. I better play defense. And he did that. I better hustle. I better make sure I cover somebody.
Well,
I better
he
impact the
did
game in
what
other
he
ways.
did what Red Auerbach always said. You go 1 for 14, keep shooting. 'Cause
Yes.
It's going to change.
Yes.
And that's what he did in the fourth quarter. He won the game.
And like he said, all it took was one.
And then
That's what he needs. He just needs to see the first one go in.
yeah,
and
playing at
he's off
home.
to
His mother
races.
was at the game. I mean, he was
dad was at
flying
the
all
game,
over the
too,
place.
yeah.
So I mean, Horford's father should be playing on the team. He's there all the time. But anyways,
Al, I covered that guy in college.
who Horford?
Tito Sr.
Oh, Tito. Yeah.
Yeah. Tito.
So, anyways, I think the road is clear, but difficult.
Yes,
In other
no
words,
doubt.
if they win it, everybody's going to say, "Well, they beat Philly, came back on Philly, and they could beat the Heat
yeah,
because they play the first 2 at here.
right.
I mean, you got
And
tonight
here's
and
the
tomorrow.
thing, Al. Here's the thing that gives me concern about the Heat. All right, the Heat, like their South Florida hockey brethren, the Panthers, were on the ropes going into the end of the regular season, and had lost to Atlanta
Well,
badly.
they were lucky they got in.
And they got in. They made their hay in the play-in game. They gained
Yeah,
some traction. Then they wound up beating the Milwaukee Bucks, and that got my attention right away.
Well,
then
see-
I saw, okay, they're going to play the Knicks. The Knicks were like a thorn in the Celtics side all year long,
Yeah, well,
and they beat the Knicks.
I look at it this way. They're just getting off to the Panthers and
segue to that.
well, I'll tell you why. The Panthers were picked to be a Stanley Cup, potentially Stanley Cup team before the season started. Don't forget, they went to Calgary and took in Tkachuk, and he was the guy they said would make them what they were. They started poorly. They didn't play well. They finished well enough to get to the 8th spot. They were a very difficult team for the Bruins. They match up well against the Bruins. They beat them twice during the season. And then they beat them 4 times in the playoff. They beat them 6 out of the 14, 15 times that the Bruins lost. So think about that. Then they go up to Toronto, and they outplayed Toronto the whole series. Toronto hasn't won a Stanley Cup for, I forget what it is, 30-something years or 40 years, whatever it is. Toronto's got the boogie in their head that, like the Red Sox did for years and years and years. And then the team goes in and says, and I think Tkachuk said it best, we have nothing to lose. Nobody thinks we're going to win. So they play loose. Hard to beat a team like that. And I think Carolina will beat them.
You know what, Al? It's funny because I think that we all went into the postseason with the expectation that the Bruins were going to be on a duck boat parade by the end of it. The way they were playing.
Well, the
way we thought they had played in the regular season, the record setting, that they would be on the duck boat parade. And the odd thought just occurred to me: what if it's the Celtics that does the duck boat parade? Right? They get the duck boat parade.
Yeah.
You know what I would do? I would include all the other teams in the duck. Give me one duck boat for the Red Sox, one duck boat for the Patriots, and one duck boat for the Bruins. Bring your hardware. Let's make it an all-inclusive celebration.
I wouldn't do it because you know
what? I would make it an all-inclusive celebration.
I know.
And then make it a tradition that whoever wins it leads the parade, and the others, you know what? You bring up the rear. But, and you get to get some cheers,
I understand why, but I mean, this is what's wrong with society today. Everybody has to walk away with a trophy. I mean, there's winners and losers. I know, but even to have them included, they didn't win.
I'll tell you something. It has an inspirational effect for all those other, say, for example, you get Mac Jones to ride with Belichick in the one, if they're doing this, right? This is hypothetical, people. What do you think? What kind of impact? I think it could have the same cumulative effect that Doc Rivers had on the Big Three when they came together in Boston before that 2008 season. And Doc Rivers, brilliantly said, let's go take a duck boat tour of Boston. He says, now imagine the streets lined with millions of people. You know what? That's what happens here when you win a championship.
Yeah, but if you win...
And he planted that...
Well, you said it best.
Planted that thought in their head.
If you win a championship...
Correct.
And you don't include people who didn't.
But you know what, though? Here is, I think, the desired effect of that. It shows those guys who have never experienced that, how much it matters to people here. How much it really matters.
Trust me, they know.
They know.
Because these are the craziest, or some of the craziest fans in the world.
Totally, man.
I mean, if you take New York and Philadelphia in the East, they're right there. 1, 2, 3 are the craziest.
Rabid fandom.
But it's like saying, But
would you endorse that idea?
No. No, I wouldn't. Only because I'm a firm believer that to get there is unique. Yeah. And you can't then tarnish that by having people who didn't get there. So
right, but they've been there though. Yeah, the Celtics
the
Celtics bring their hardware. The Red Sox can bring their hardware.
Yeah, but so what?
Have the ownership, have John Henry and Tom Warner, on there with Cora. You have Kraft with Belichick, and you have Montgomery, who's never had one of those.
I don't want to have the 2008 Red Sox throwing out the first pitch. Every time you go to the Fenway Park now, who cares? It's over. It's done what they won.
But Al, they always have that. Red Sox, they have that. I like that.
I don't like going to Fenway Park and the game starts at 7:10. It actually starts at 7 and goes to 7.
No, I'm talking like an opening day.
I understand that.
An opening day.
But it's too much of a ceremony that it gets very boring. Play ball. Who wants? I don't want to hear that stuff. I want to watch the game. I want to watch the intricacies of the game, and not all the pomp and circumstance that they've turned all sports event.
So you'd rather it go back to the days when no one came to the games?
No, I mean, everybody's gone to the Red Sox games, win or lose. One thing about Fenway Park fans, Boston fans, they went. Red Sox never won, and you could go to Fenway Park, and people wanted to see players. They wanted to see Ted Williams. They wanted to see Mickey Mantle. They wanted to see. Today, people go to the ballpark to drink,
eat,
be
seen.
It cost me.
Hopefully,
I don't even want to tell you what it cost me to
get on
park
the big screen
last night at the game. It cost me $70 to park.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have parked at 50, but I had somebody with me that walked with a cane, so it took them a long time to get there. So we parked closer. $70. Come on, let's be honest about it. If you go to the game with 3 kids,
it's costing you over $1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah.
For an entertainment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll watch it on TV.
That's the price of poker nowadays, you know.
But there's a couple of other things, you know. And watching that game last night, Pivetta is an interesting guy to watch pitch. Yeah. One, he wants to be the guy that goes 6-7 innings.
Right.
He's got a rubber arm. He always has. He hasn't had a lot of problems with that. He goes 3 up, 3 down, first 3 innings. Yeah. And then he gives up 4 runs, which he shouldn't have given up 4. He should have probably given, well, the guy hit a home run that foul cut across the pesky pole, which is not a big shot, but I mean, it's a 2-run homer there. Duran kind of muffed the ball in center field. That's an interesting thing because we were looking at that and saying, would you give Duran an error? They did not give him an error on that play.
Because the ball fell in?
Well, no, he made the effort, and Cora said it after the game. I'd rather see him make the effort and go for the ball than not hustle for the ball.
Yeah.
I understand that. But all he had to do was get in front of the ball, which would keep the runner from going from first to home, because it went all the way back to the 420 mark.
Yeah.
And had the runner that was the guy who hit the ball go all the way to third base. So now you're giving up 2 runs because there were no outs at the time. So the run scores on a ball that he should never have gotten to third base, and then the runner got to third base and scores on the next play. Then the guy hits a 2-run homer, and Pivetta's now 4-4. The Sox, what I liked about the Red Sox last night is they immediately came back and put 3 of them up. Yeah. So now they're up 7-4, and then Duran hit a home run, made it 8-4. Then
Yoshida got a RBI.
What Cora said is interesting about this team. I'm not as worried about when Pivetta gave up the 4 runs. If we score 6 runs, we're going to win.
Yeah. Well, if you have Sale going the way he's going, if you have, I mean, how can we omit this? James Paxton coming back.
Yeah, well, I was impressed with Paxton the other night because if he
think
throws
about how
the ball,
long he's been idled,
and he's a lefty,
and he attacks the zone. Oh, I was very impressed.
I was impressed.
And you know what? And Sale and Paxton did not deserve to lose.
Neither one of them did.
Games.
I mean, Sale pitched a really good game. He's pitched 3 out of the last 4 games.
I mean, he gave them he handed them basically. He handed Kenley Jansen a save.
Yeah, whether he's a 1 anymore or not, I don't think so. He might be a 2. Sale could be a 2-3. Yeah. Depends on, when he strikes out batters, he's not striking them out because they're swinging at 98-mile-an-hour fastballs.
So now they got Kenley Jansen, who's had this issue, with time violations, pitch clock violation. He has a very, very awkward delivery.
He does.
It's a stop-start delivery. It looks like Charles Barkley, former golf swing.
Yeah, basically. But he's got 400 saves in his career, so he's always been right. There.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this is what I give. I'm not a big Cora fan, but where I think he really does good is with his players, because when somebody questioned him last night about Jansen, and he said he just didn't have it. Right. That happens, but he's given us everything that we wanted up until that point. Yeah. I mean, his ERA was down here. So, anyways.
And I like the kid they brought in last night, and they called up.
You know what? The kid that they got for your guy, the catcher from Vasquez. Babe Ruth, he's a hitter.
Yeah.
Valdez can play ball. Yeah, he's a good ball player. And you know what? The more that Valdez and the other kid that got a hit the last time up. He's got a hit in every game.
Reyes. Yeah.
Guys like that are going to eventually cause Arroyo and Kiki to play less and less.
Right. Yeah.
because they're younger
And they're more productive at the
and
plate.
they can be more productive. Now, Barroyo is a streak hitter, as is
I want to
Kiki.
see.
I like
wanna,
Kiki.
I
But
like those guys, Al. I want to see more of this kid Garza in leverage situations because I thought I was very impressed with the way he came in and the way he worked, pounded the zone, attacked hitters, and then at the end he threw some elevated fastballs that wound up getting ground ball outs.
Yeah.
You know,
don't forget now, Duvall is still out of the lineup.
Do you think he comes back this season?
Yeah, I think it's not as bad an injury as what caused him to lose the
he
second
broke a
half of the
wrist,
season.
Al.
Well, it wasn't broken. It was cracked. And there's a little difference, and it wasn't a complete break.
Did they have to put a?
No, I don't think so. But the other kid, Thomas, that they picked up from the Dodgers, I keep forgetting.
Justin Turner.
Justin Turner. He played third base the other night.
Yeah.
This kid
Because
is a 288
Dahlbeck can't, and they had to send him
lifetime
back.
hitter. Well, Dahlbeck could be gone as if this guy's going to play third when Devers isn't playing. But he's a 288 lifetime hitter.
Yeah.
The kid can hit. He hit a home run last night. It went over. I mean, he pounded the ball, 2-run homer.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about the Red Sox in terms of the hitting. I think they're going to be middle of the pack in the league now because that league is going to be competitive.
Yes.
It looks like it's going to be competitive.
No doubt.
If the pitching holds up,
And
they
Al,
can make
they
it.
got a brutal road trip coming up.
Yeah.
They're going to go to San Diego and Anaheim.
Yeah,
and,
well, Bogarts. It'll be interesting to see how that whole thing's out. I should mention one thing, because a lot of people don't like. I love tennis. I like watching tennis, but I don't know if everybody watched. Djokovic played Norrie, the kid from England, last night.
Yeah.
And
What was that, the Italian Open?
in the Italian Open, and Djokovic has won the Italian Open incidentally 6 times.
He's
Six
very good on
times.
clay.
He's good at. No, he's not as good on clay as Nadal,
No.
but he
Well,
likes.
Nadal's injured right now.
He speaks Italian, and the fans love him,
I love
Djokovic. But what he did, what happened in this match, was Norrie had the shot, and Djokovic had. He actually conceded the point, and he turned his back, and Norrie slammed it into his leg, the shot.
Oh.
And Djokovic took offense to it.
Of course.
But he didn't accept the apology. And what I like about Djokovic is he's very vocal, because when they interviewed him afterwards, he said, there are things, what he did wasn't illegal. There are a number of things that people can do in a tennis match that are illegal, that if you're talking to people in the clubhouse, go, I can't believe he did that.
Right.
He said, and that's one of the situations where I turned my back on it because he had the point.
It's like a defenseless wide receiver,
Yeah,
right?
And to turn your back on it
Yeah.
and then get slammed with the shot, I mean,
Yeah.
that ball's moving pretty good.
All he had to do was dink it.
And then he turned around and Djokovic won 6-1, 6-4, I think, in the second set. I mean, when Djokovic plays well, he's a
That's all
fun
he
guy.
needed.
He's a fun guy to watch.
That's all. I like him.
And
I like him.
Alcaraz, the Spaniard, 19-year-old kid, lost.
Yeah.
So Djokovic is going to end up playing, I know who it's going to be. It's going to be Medvedev, the Russian.
Oh.
And that's going to be a match.
Isn't that a
to watch.
rematch of the Australian Open?
They've played a lot, and Medvedev has recently gotten the better. But, you know, this is a prelude to Roland Garros, which is the French Open, which is the big one. And then, of course, you got Wimbledon,
coming up.
and then the U.S. Open.
Unbelievable, Al, how this year is just flying by. It's
Yeah, it
unbelievable.
is.
And pretty soon we'll be talking about the the Celtics in the NBA Finals, hopefully.
Well, I hope tonight
Game one.
I hope tonight that the Celtics don't play flat. Just play a good game. I don't care who wins, who loses. I do care who wins. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'd rather see that than see a 120-90 win by the Heat.
Well, we'll know more by the end of tonight, and next time when we sit here at the dais, we hope to be able to report about a Celtics victory in games 1, maybe 2 and 3 by that point. So hopefully this time next week when we revisit with each other, we'll have some positive news to report. But at any rate, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank my main man, Al Prizzuti, for being aboard. And we look forward to seeing you next time here on Stepping Up to the Plate. Thanks, everyone. Take care.